Welcome to The Price of Music, brought to you by Music Ally. And if you want an easy guide to what's going on in the music industry and how it all works, then here we are every week, looking at the finances of the music industry whilst also bringing you stories and comments from across the pop business. He's Stuart Dredge, I'm Joe Sparrow, and we're going to start as ever with Stu's big number. Stu, which big number has caught your eye this week?
My big number this week is $9.2 billion, which is, I think, fairly big.
That ticks the boxes for bigness. What is that?
This is how much money TikTok made last year across just Europe, Latin America, Africa, and the UK. So essentially not in Asia, not in America, but everywhere else. It made $9.2 billion, and that was up 45.7% year on year. So TikTok is making a shed load more money all around the world, essentially.
And like for those of us who just perhaps doom scroll to TikTok, how does TikTok make money?
Well, it's three ways. So it makes money from advertising, like all social media things, but it also makes money from people spending money on in-app purchases to tip the live streamers they like. So you can send tips and gifts to people. And it also makes money from shopping. So its TikTok shop is becoming a booming kind of way of buying stuff online. So it has these three ways of making money now, which for social media is quite impressive. Traditionally, these been advertising only businesses, and really, if the advertising takes a wobble, they're in trouble. But TikTok has got these. I suppose if I was a big tech mogul guy, I'd be saying it's the triple engine economy of TikTok.
Yeah.
Shopping, ads, and in-app spending.
Okay, and of that 9.2 billion is a huge amount of money. Just as a reminder, how does that money, or does any of that money, reach artists, songwriters, and musicians?
Yeah, so TikTok has got licensing deals with labels and publishers. Every so often a fight emerges. I had a fight with Universal Music Group a few years ago, and then made up. So yes, money is going towards music, and the music industry is always saying we should be getting more money from TikTok and other platforms like it. So Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. So this is the kind of thing where this is it's financial filing. So it's not TikTok coming out and boasting about it. It's kind of, it has to file these financials in the UK, where the bit of it company that controls these countries is. So you can bet that next time record labels, publishers are going back into TikTok saying, right, time to renew our deal, they'll probably be waving these figures around saying, I see your money's up 45%. Well, maybe let's talk about how much our licensing money should raise this time.
Possibly by 45%, yeah.
It shows growth. I mean, obviously, a lot of this growth has nothing to do with music in a sense, in that people buying stuff from TikTok shop is not music related most of the time. People paying a non-music TikToker through a live stream isn't. So a lot of not all this money is music related, but yeah, it is a sense of this is a really good business growing fast. It's actually gone. So these bits of TikTok, so not America, not Asia, but everywhere else, posted an operating loss of like just under $485 million in 2024. And last year it posted a $452 million profit. So it's becoming a really profitable business as well. And that, again, is something that labels will go in saying, we see profits are good, eh? Let's talk about our terms.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, isn't it? Of course, artists are using these technologies like TikTok Shop to sell stuff and make money, and that's all something that, again, exists outside of the sort of licensing of music system. And I guess that, if you're an artist who has merchandise, TikTok is a great way to flog it.
Well, this is the thing, I think, that whenever we talk about TikTok and it's making more money from these other things, artists can do this stuff. They can sell their merch on TikTok Shop. They can do live streams and they can accept tips and gifts. And that hasn't really been the focus for a lot of artists in the past. But I think now people are starting to wake up to, hang on a minute, there's a load of money being spent on TikTok, not just from advertisers. Why can't we get a share of that? And TikTok is quite keen to help and to give artists advice and say, here's how you can do your merch.
I'm sure it is, as it takes a percentage of each of those sales. Let's go on to our big stories. Universal Music Group has signed a high-profile licensing deal with the remixing app called Hook. So what is Hook? And do people want fan-made remixes?
Isn't Hook the band that Peter Hook formed after New Order with lots of basses?
I think that was The Light. That's The Light. Oh, no. The band that Peter Hook formed after New Order was Free Bass and had three bassists, one of which was Andy Rourke from The Smiths. I think Manny. I think it was a very Mancunian affair.
That's a good trio of bassists. But yeah, anyway, so Hook It's a Hook, which makes me think of Captain Hook, and I just hear a crocodile TikToking.
Right.
But yeah, Hook is a startup. It's like an app basically that lets you remix and speed up and slow down, mash up like music songs. But it's all official, so it licenses the music from labels, and it makes sure that everything in there that you can remix, you're allowed to. And apparently, they announced this deal with Universal Music Group, which is like the big dog to get licensing wise. Like it's the biggest, biggest major label. Obviously, the other major labels are very big too. Not doing anyone down. And apparently, UMG and Hook spent like 2 years running 30 test campaigns with artists from various Universal labels. So this has been a long time in the coming, this deal. And essentially, it means that Hook will have loads of music from Universal to put into that, and people will be able to remix it.
So this isn't a AI-powered press one button and put a prompt in and a remix pops out remix. This is when you go to the app or the platform, you can pick a song by an artist you like, and you're given the tools and the stems of the music to remix it the way you want.
So it's a bit more kind of active in that, although still very accessible and easy. You don't have to be you don't need to know how to remix music. So it's very much mainstream targeted. But yeah, and I think the interesting thing about it is this is kind of an example of a startup together with a label and labels going, okay, all this stuff that's been happening unofficially, like all those sped up versions of songs for TikTok, all this, I mean, UGC is the word, user generated content. All this stuff has been happening without labels approving it or making money from it. We're going to try and find a model where they can do both. And Hook is one of just a few examples. And I think when I wrote the story, we talked about some of the AI stuff happening. So Spotify is working with labels on a way to remix and mash up songs, official songs.
Yeah.
And Udio, the AI music thing, is doing the thing. So this is a big thing. It's like this transition of going, okay, people have been speeding up songs, slowing them down, mashing things up, and we never got any money from it, and we never got to say yes or no. So we're going to find some companies who are going to give us that control, but also let us shape what can be done and how it can be done. So Hook is an example of that. And it's kind of interesting because it's a startup. So you've got Spotify doing this on one side, a very big streaming company. You've got Udio, which is kind of another startup in the AI space, and you've got Hook. So Universal and other labels are obviously saying, right, we want to have a few people doing this, a few examples and just see what works and see if people want to do any of this stuff. Because that's the other question here, I think. Do people want to remix songs, that popular pop songs? And no one quite knows. Like, we know they want to speed them up for TikTok. But
people have been doing it for a long time, haven't they, as well, just on their own terms. They'll grab a song, stem split it in Logic, and then remix it their way, So there's a group of people out there who've been doing it sort of fairly determinedly forever.
Do you remember Peak Mashup? The Sugar Babes and Gary Newman and then that whole period of
blissfully forgotten Peak.
Errol Alkan, wasn't it? He was the guy. He was the mashup.
Errol Alkan and was it Richard X who did some really? They're both those two were the princes, the high princes of mashups, and also have had very successful careers since.
But
then,
they were pros. They knew what they were doing. I think the thing here is now, right? What if anyone could do this, but within tightly controlled? Okay, you can't do something we don't approve of. And it's kind of a bet, I think.
Which isn't very cool, is it? Like, I think isn't one of the fun parts about mashing up songs and remixing them that you take it and you do what you want. It's not about a major label giving you permission to do it. I mean, doesn't that take some of the fun away?
Yeah, but I suppose the way the labels have put it is actually we're letting the artist decide what you can do. And I think part of this is this idea of like the artists who are signed to Universal can decide which features can be used with their music and what can be done with it. So I think if you were talking to Universal, they'd be saying it's not about a big corporate label saying you can do X and Y. It's about artists having the control, and we are obviously the way they get that. But yeah, it's a fair point, I think. Like, I suppose the two questions are, does anyone want to do it, and will the results be good and exciting, and will people want to listen to them? Because that is the other thing. I think some of those bootlegs that really did catch fire were really good, but just mashing up one popular song with another doesn't mean it's going to be good, even if they're both good individually. The whole, what's it called? The sum of its parts ends up less than
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a chat in the lock-in section later for you super fans out there, and perhaps toss around a few ideas of songs that we would like to remix, and see where we'd go with them. Next big story then. Ariana Grande at the moment is doing a 10-show run at the O2 in London, and one of our team at Music Ally went and said it was transcendently amazing. But 35% of the people buying tickets for Ariana Grande's show run are from outside of the UK. So, okay, let's talk about that in terms of what does that mean in terms of the modern sort of mega pop concert and how they're running them? But is there an environmental perspective as well? Let's start with this. She's doing a 10-show run. Harry Styles has done, I don't know how many dates at Wembley. And The Weeknd, The Weeknd has just moved out after being there for a month or whatever. This is what artists are doing now. Why?
Well, it's a various reasons. This residencies idea is essentially, it's partly about putting on a great show. So you can just basically set up your ambitious visuals, concert staging and that, and you haven't got to pack them away again and schlep up the motorway to Sheffield or Glasgow. So that's one thing. It's kind of if we go stay in one place, can we do more?
Which says a lot about the expectations of people when they're paying these huge amounts of money for tickets, right? So these tickets are expensive tickets, right? So people have a very high expectation of the production value.
Multiple stages, visuals.
Multiple stages, all this stuff. When you're paying $200, $300, $400, $500 for a ticket, they want to see a big show, and it's more expensive to move it around. So that's it's sort of it's also a result of just the expectations of people when they pay that much money, isn't it?
Interesting. They still go to London, and then like I was saying, Glasgow and Sheffield, the cities, those places might lose out because we'll go to London, everyone here. There's a well-being aspect to this. I think artists are saying, actually, we don't want to be constantly on tour on the road. We'd rather stay in one place, and that's something that's quite important. So artists saying, we're going to make the touring life more workable for us on that side. And obviously, Ariana Grande has been in the news recently she's taking a break after this tour. She's reached a point where she needs to kind of step back from being a touring pop celebrity. So there is that. But then there is, like you say, the environmental aspect. So I think that the thing here this was presented by the O2 as this is a great, look at the gig tourism is a wonderful thing. Look at the money coming into London's economy. Look at, this is exciting. But this is where I'm not going to be having a go at the O2 because they've been a really pioneering venue, and AAG, the owner, in terms of running reports on what is the sustainability of concerts and how can we make them greener, how can we cut emissions. They've done a lot of work on that. And so part of the result of that work is we know that fan travel, it's anywhere from 70% to 90% of a big concert's total carbon emissions is fan travel. So whatever you do with the power there, however many veggie burgers you serve, whatever you do to make it green in that sense, if your fans are flying in from across Europe on Ryanair, then there's a challenge there.
And it's not even that, is it? I mean, it's even more local travel. Like if people are driving down from, London is in the corner of the country, and of course the UK is frustratingly London centric. And if you live in Glasgow, you've got to travel all the way down to London to engage with this, and that means your carbon emissions are much higher than if you were just popping into the centre of Glasgow on the train or whatever. So, there is something to consider here that we often talk about the carbon emissions of a venue or of Taylor Swift's private jet. All these things that we like to sort of rattle our cage about. But actually, if you are a venue and people are coming to you, it's okay. Yes, all the emissions come from the people traveling to you to the venue, don't you? So if you're an artist and you book yourself a residency for 10 days or 10 gigs at one place, you are pushing those carbon emissions onto the fan base, and they are going to travel to one place, and there is a difference. I mean,
your catchment area becomes the whole continent.
Yeah,
and it would be Radiohead when they did their stuff, and that was we're going to do 10 dates in the same place.
Yeah. I understand how it's better for the artist, right? But if there is, maybe there's a piece of work to be done here. Maybe this research has been done. Please contact us if so. But I'd be interested to see what the carbon emissions are for let's say, a 5-date stadium tour that moves around the UK to the 5 cities you'd expect them to go to, versus doing 5 dates in London and expecting everyone to come to you.
You're switching a crew and trucks moving between cities for. But it's interesting because I think the O2 has done work on this, and I think they did the first carbon removed gigs in 1975, a couple of years ago. I think there was something, and I'm trying to remember it right. I think they added 90p a ticket to cover audience travel emissions as well. Like they've been thinking about this. So it's not that they're kind of blissfully going, hurrah, residencies are great. Who cares about the planet? I think actually the opposite. But it's that weird thing, isn't it? Like, I don't want to be the person telling Ariana Grande, no, you have to go and tour every city at the point when you're knackered and want to have some time off. But it's one of these contradictions in the modern live music industry, I think, where we're thinking about the impact on the planet, but we're also thinking about the quality of the show and the well-being of the artist. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the easy answer to this is. You know.
Well, the thing is, this is the sort of the ongoing complication with environmental issues, which is they are complicated. There are no easy answers, and of course, there should not be an expectation that we as people in the world should live this entirely virtuous life where we don't travel, we don't use planes, we don't go on holiday, we don't do anything because, we're desperately trying to minimize our carbon footprint, particularly, in the context of the world where all these enormous businesses are pumping carbon dioxide into the air all the time. But there is also at the same time this thing about, a shared responsibility towards this. And this is a good example of how that is complex and the cake gets sliced. So the venue is doing work to reduce its own carbon emissions. That's obviously a good thing. And it's working to make innovative ways to work with artists to, let's say, offset the emissions of the people who travel to the gig. Of course, that opens up a whole debate about carbon offsetting and whether that's useful or worthwhile or it works or not. But you could go out there and, you could go out and plant a load of trees for every single show and literally build a carbon sink. You could do that as well. But then there's also where does the responsibility end? Okay, so it then becomes a conversation about public transport. Is there a good enough public transport network connecting to that city that allows people to travel to and from that city and to the venue on the lowest carbon producing, least environmentally bad systems possible? And that's generally trains and things like that, and incentivizing people to do that rather than driving in their car, and which is worse. And then that becomes about a local government issue. And then when you start talking about people traveling globally, as 35% of the people visiting Ariana Grande did from across, I presume, Europe, then that's really complicated, because it's then you're talking about the airline industry, you're talking about governments across Europe, and it's sort of a snapshot of how we need to think about environmental issues, even around something like this, which is, well, it's a bit of everything, and it's about getting all those things aligned, which is where environmental problems come from, which is there not being this cross-cultural alignment between what we need to do, isn't it? It's not Ariana Grande's fault that people are traveling further to come and see her.
Or her fans. Like, if she's not playing in your country, she's playing in London. I understand why a fan would go, I want to get on a plane and see her. I might not get a chance for, who knows.
It's interesting because it's also, in the future, this is going to be something which, like, what impact does that have on your fan base? Let's take the environmental thing out of the question. If you're saying to your fans, you need to come to me, that's a big, you're putting the responsibility all the way over to them. And you've got to make sure that doesn't erode that really important trust layer and the enthusiasm layer with your fans. Because in the past, that's not how it was. It was, we're coming to you and you come and join in. And now it's kind of inverted. And I wonder how much goodwill there is for all artists of all types. How long are people going to say, yes, I will invest £500 in transport, accommodation and tickets and food and blah, 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 blah to go and see The Weeknd?
Which in turn, I suppose, ups that pressure on the show has to be big and amazing and the kind of show that maybe you couldn't just pack into a truck and take to the next city. So it's almost circular, isn't it? But yeah.
I mean, and as soon as people aren't willing to spend those kind of ticket prices, the pressure to put that show on will come down, and maybe they'll start hitting the road again. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how cyclical this is in terms of a sort of behavior that they do. Okay, final big story this week. There's Stu, for people who like geeking out about music, you can now add notes to your Spotify playlist for you and the world to read. Why? and is there I'm going to say sinister ? Side to this as well?
Well, yeah. So this is an existing feature that was called user notes, and now it's become playlist notes. So it basically lets you, attach, like basically write text captions for songs or podcast episodes or audiobooks you've added to playlists. Now, one use for this is that Spotify's own editors are using it. So when you go to today's top hits at Rap Caviar, they can write stuff there saying why we picked this song or what we think about the song or his.
That is interesting, right? I want to be guided by experts.
Yeah, and that's part of the wider thing where actually those editors are getting more profile on Spotify, saying here is our head of this, and they think that that they're becoming more public figures. So that's kind of interesting, and you can see why they've picked things. But yeah, anyone can do it. So you can say, and I think the way it was pitched was like, hey, you can write your memories. Why did you like this song at the time? What did it make you think of? What were you doing at the time? Or if I think weirdly, the way Spotify has grown is I don't expect anyone else to be listening to my playlists. Like there's not really easy for me to promote them. No one's interested. They've got their own playlist.
Black Crowes fans would be interested in your playlist.
Well, but there are other people, everyone's got their own Black Crowes playlist. Who's Black Crowes fan. So I don't really think of my playlist as something public facing, even though they probably are all public. I don't even know if they're public or not. Like that setting probably changed at some point without me knowing. So it feels like a personal feature for you. And I'm thinking, I don't think I really need to write. Maybe when my memory starts to fail, I will want to know why I put that song on playlist in 2026. But so that's from the user's point of view. I'm sort of thinking, well, if that's something you like to do, if you like to attach your own context, that's cool. And if you're making playlists and you're trying to get other people to see them, that's cool. And maybe if you're an artist, artists have playlists of their inspirations, and you could now put a note that saying, this is why.
Yes. No, you see, I'd be interested in hearing my favorite artist. It talk me through their playlist of favorite songs. I would be or their influence. I mean, that is really interesting. So I'd like that.
But here's the thing. I mean, this is it's not sinister as such, but Spotify has these terms of service. I can tell.
Let me just put my tinfoil hat on. Hang on.
Yeah. There we go. Spotify has terms of service. And when everything that you make, your playlists, anything you create on Spotify, its services cover saying, actually, we do have the right to use this to train our models, train our AI models or recommendation models. And a lot of that is kind of completely benign, So what you do on Spotify, it can use to give you better recommendations. It's essentially that. But if we all start suddenly typing in all this context, like our memories, it's why we like something, this can all be used by Spotify to train whatever it's doing with AI. And it's all there in the terms. It's not like secret. It's not kind of an evil.
Well, no one reads those, do they? I mean, it is.
Well, no, but it's not trying to hide it.
But
essentially, this could be like, basically, it's getting hundreds of millions of people to give it annotation for the catalogue of music.
But it is another emotional sort of metadata layer, isn't it, attached to music?
Yeah.
And if used in a benign and helpful way, it could be a really good way of attaching, emotions are very complex things to capture, and attaching that to music and understanding that better and being able to deliver better playlists. And that's the nice way to look at it.
Well, yeah, and when I go there
with my tinfoil hat on, I'm going to say that maybe there's also the chance to do things that are kind of not quite so fun, but it could be great.
When I go to Spotify and go, make me a playlist of songs for a rainy breakup drive. not that I've broken up with anyone, not that it's raining, so and I can't drive.
Right, okay.
Apart from those three things, that could be a use case I go for. Then it could go, right, well, actually 4 million people have tagged this song as good for rainy breakup drives. So this could all help it do better recommendations. Like you say, that's quite a positive thing. The other thing I think that made me think about this is do you remember recently Lorde called out Spotify? Because I think it had used a web scraped AI summary of one of her songs and it got it wrong.
And it was wrong, yeah.
So you could argue this is kind of Spotify going, well, actually, why don't we get humans to give us context instead of just AI is hallucinating about what song Lorde does this to live. So that is an argument that works right up to the point of humans could just type in any old shit. It might not be accurate as well.
Yeah.
But I do think it's saying, right, we want human context for everything on here, and then we're going to do stuff with that.
What it makes me think is we've already spoken in this podcast about the olden days of the mashup culture of mid to late noughties, and here we're sort of returning back to blogging culture, aren't we, of the same period, which is anybody can be the voice of a tastemaker and can compile their own feed of songs and put their taste and thoughts and context around it, and people will like that and join and take something from it or not. And I haven't got a point really, other than an observation that everything just comes back around, doesn't it? And here we are doing micro-blogging on Spotify as opposed to doing blogging and pointing people at Spotify.
Yeah. And this is not just a Spotify thing. I think it's going to be a thing. Every music service that gives you an opportunity to contribute your thoughts, write stuff, everything you do that's creative and things could be used. They will be able to use that to train whatever it is they're doing. And like we said, I think there's positive aspects to that. It's not really I think there's something sinister they're going to do with it, but it is something I think that it's worth talking about and being aware of, that we're not just having a cozy feature to kind of annotate our music. We are contributing to this big hive brain of data.
I would hope to be able to, as a user, to be able to opt out of it, to be honest, and not have it used to train an AI. We will discuss that as well in the lock-in, the superfan section later on. If you're interested in listening to that and you want more of the price of music every week, you can go across to Patreon or patreon.com/the price of music, and for the price of a pint or less, you can sign up to become a super fan, and you can join us every week for another 20 minutes or so of the price of music after the normal episode ends, and we will be discussing those things I mentioned, plus Stu's pub fact of the week, which involves Canada. And we'll come to that later. So go to patreon.com/the price of music and you can become a super fan. Information is below the podcast. Now, any other business, Stu, here's a question for you. We've got all these streaming platforms with music on it, and we've got all these platforms with all sorts of different TV shows and movies on it. Should Netflix put streaming music alongside its streaming video?
I don't know is the answer to that, but I do know someone who has an opinion, and that is Warner Music Group boss Robert Kintzel, who gave this interview. And he's a former Netflix executive, so he knows Netflix. And he gave this interview saying essentially what he thought it should do. He was asked, he was prompted, what do you think Netflix should do with music? He said they should essentially license a load of music and battle YouTube on that front, license a load of music videos. And he pointed out that music videos are non-exclusive. YouTube doesn't only have them, Spotify has them, anyone can have them. And so Netflix could create its own music hub. And he kind of, and he's quite a self-aware man. He sort of said, yeah, this is self-serving, because of course Warner Music Group would love Netflix to come in to license music videos and provide competition for YouTube and Spotify and all the others, because one more big company licensing music means more competition and prices might go up. So,
it's kind of odd that Netflix haven't done it yet, considering, if you think they own the living room space in terms of the telly, right? And so that's where people, or companies like Netflix, they sort of group them together, So companies like Netflix, they own that space, and people habitually put the telly on and they navigate through to whatever they want to watch. But also then people often use the telly as their audio streaming service as well. And they'll put YouTube videos on, or they'll put
YouTube
the Spotify
is massive
app
on
there.
TV now, isn't it?
Yeah, massive. And Spotify's app works really well and is used a lot on TV devices and things like that. So it is. Why do you think they haven't done it so far?
I think so. Netflix's business has always been about how do we get people to subscribe. But that's the metric. And so they've done quite a lot with music recently. They streamed BTS's comeback concert. They showed a Harry Styles concert. They've been doing docuseries stuff. They got K-pop Demon Hunters, which is their original.
They do.
So I feel like music is playing a really big role for them in how do we have stuff on here that will make people subscribe. Like, we have BTS's comeback gig. That's going to drive subscriptions. I don't know if the music videos would fulfill that. So you'd have to have another reason for wanting them on there.
One question we sometimes ask is, what would persuade people to move from one streaming platform to another? It's music streaming. So why would someone move from Spotify to Apple Music? There needs to be a very strong driver, so a big incentive to cancel this contract and establish this one over here, because you're getting the same service.
Yeah. In TV, whereas you have Netflix has got this show helm.
Right. So like if you subscribe to Netflix, you might also subscribe to HBO because they've got shows on Netflix. But that question about switching between music streaming platforms changes a bit if you're getting a bundle deal with Netflix and you're getting your Netflix movies and TV content, and you're getting a music streaming platform Now that I can see people being persuaded
Maybe.
to cancel their Spotify for.
And they have been doing things with gaming. So far, gaming, like Netflix has been adding games. You get those part of your subscription, and that's another.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that I think about this, that this maybe is what they would, maybe why they would say this isn't the strategy, is YouTube is not just official music videos. That's not why YouTube is exciting, I think.
No.
I think it's about all the unofficial I can go on there and search for rare live footage. I can search for all kinds of stuff. It's not just a static library of music videos. That's not its strength. And it's also
there's tons of stuff that it doesn't exist on official streaming platforms.
And you can't license that stuff as well.
You've got DJ mixes recorded off the radio from 1993.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never going to find that anywhere else.
You can't go into Warner Music and say, I'd like this license, this live video, from that year. And also YouTube is not just about the videos. It's about like the kind of the culture, I think, of the comment section and the creators around it. And all that stuff is, if you were going to take on YouTube, you can't just license it to music videos, job done. I think it'd be pale imitation. So I don't know. So I feel like there's good reasons why Netflix hasn't done what Robert Kinsell wants it to do. But I equally see why that would be quite exciting for the music industry to have Netflix go into full music licensing. I think it would be
fascinating, wouldn't it? If Netflix said, pay us £7 extra a month and you'll get a streaming platform. Well, people who aren't paying for subscriptions to a streaming platform might just pay the add-on, and people who are paying 12 to 14 for a music streaming platform might go, okay, great, I can save £7 a month.
I always did think, like, if you think about streaming, you've got YouTube Music, which has video on one side and music on the other. But you've got Apple, which is Apple TV and Apple Music. You've got Amazon, which has Prime Video, and so a lot of Netflix's big competitors also have a music service in house. Most of Spotify's big competitors have a video service of some kind. So I always did think in the past, like, shouldn't Spotify and Netflix do something? I mean, I don't think they've merged; they're so big now. But could they do some kind of partnership? Or I feel like they both need that. They maybe want to have that other bit without actually like. Equally for Spotify, it doesn't want to spend billions and billions of dollars commissioning original TV and trying to do its own Netflix.
Yeah.
So there's something there that's about actually they both, maybe Spotify needs TV.
You heard it. Maybe heard Netflix it here first, music. Folks. Yeah.
Well, you didn't. You heard a man pontificating randomly here first.
Stake a claim to it, Stu. You heard it here first, folks. But that would be fascinating, wouldn't it? Because a merger of like that caliber would be a really fascinating development.
It'd be so complicated and big.
Let's move on to YouTube exclusively then. YouTube now counts a view. So it registers a view count as soon as a video begins to play. And that's even if you're just swiping past it in your feed and you linger for a fraction of a second and it begins to play. Stu, does this mean that YouTube view counts are now meaningless? And what is the other incentive to do this?
Well, they kind of are. I mean, so there's two things happening here. There's going to be two metrics. Yeah, one is public view counts, the ones we see on a video. Those are based on anyone just going past, even if they're going, oh my God, not that guy, swiping past.
You've seen my videos, okay?
Yes. But then it's still going to be a private metric, which is like engaged watch hours and engaged short views. And that is that people who are actually watching your stuff. Yeah. And that's what YouTube will calculate its payouts on still. So it's going, we know that the really what actually matters is people choosing to watch you. And that's what we're going to pay you based on. But you're going to have this nice new public vanity stat. You can say, we got 10 billion views of our video. And those two things are separate now. And I think that's quite telling. Like engaged users still the thing.
Vanity numbers to show the world how great you are, but then you get paid on like the actual people who watch it for a substantial amount of time and view ads and things like that.
That's it. And why? Because I think partly it's about competition with TikTok, because I think TikTok and I think maybe Instagram Reels, both of their view counts are calculated like this, the public ones, calculated on as soon as someone scrolls past it, that's a view. So in a one sense, it might be YouTube saying, well, we can't hamstring ourselves and we want to be shouting about big numbers.
So those view counts are now meaningless because, of course, when we sort of mentally, perhaps when we think about music, we will sort of correlate and compare video music view counts with Spotify listens. But Spotify listens, they're calculated differently, aren't they? They're calculated after a certain period of time, and a payout happens after 30 seconds. So these are not comparable in any way, actually, then.
No, and it gives, on the one hand, it means if you're a YouTuber, you can go take these amazing numbers to kind of sponsorship and brands and advertisers and say, hey, I got 10 million views. And then I suspect they will go, but what are your engaged views?
Yeah.
So that's one thing, is like, will people take this number seriously when it comes to the actual business of YouTube? But I think it's just where we are in the world that because as our attention spans change, so even if we flick past something as fast as we can,
it's also
being treated as a view.
It also sort of reflects the modern media consumers' aversion to risk, which is like, oh, I've searched for a topic or I've searched for something. Which of these videos has the most views? Because that's probably the one I should watch. And actually, that isn't really how media and quality and art works, is it? But I mean, why not just remove these numbers entirely? Would be my question. Maybe we'll reach that point. Anyway,
I'm interested in YouTube, and the charts has been quite a controversial thing down the years. In some countries, they said we don't want YouTube in our music charts. But how does this play into music charts? I think any data YouTube feeds out will be based on engaged views still for that, because I think if you are the official music chart in a country, you don't want suddenly these massively inflated figures, affecting your methodology. So I think that would be a question to kind of figure out, is how does this affect where YouTube contributes to charts? What data is it providing? But I suspect that will still be the real views, not the public metric.
I guess what we're trying to say is to any prospective advertisers for the price of music out there, it doesn't matter how many downloads we have every week. Just give us your money and we'll put your advert on here.
Yeah.
And finally, Stu, a question for you and the listeners. Who had a Christian metal band in the sweepstakes for who would be the first entity to sue Netflix over K-pop Demon Hunters? If it's you are the winner. Ding, ding, ding. Stu, what? What is this?
Yeah, this is about Christian metal band Demon Hunter, who have filed a trademark infringement lawsuit against Netflix and its partners over K-pop Demon. And specifically, what the problem they have with it is that Netflix teamed up with AEG, the live music firm, to launch this massive real-world arena concert tour for next year. And the band is saying, this is direct competition with us. We're not a TV show, but we are alive. And I think there is court filings saying this is like Netflix launching K-pop Metallica or K-pop Black Sabbath. They wouldn't be allowed to get away with that on trademark grounds. So, and the best bit,
I'm struggling to see a world where people buy the tickets for the wrong one.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because the filing, there was a parent who had to ask for a refund because they spent like hundreds of dollars on VIP tickets to Demon Hunters gig, thinking it was K-pop Demon Hunters, and they wouldn't take their 5 and 6 year old daughters along, and then realized it was actually, to be fair, a Christian metal band, it's going to be wholesome.
Right.
Like it's not going to be anything inappropriate for your 5 and 6 year old daughters, maybe. But yeah, so they actually have started saying this has happened. Someone bought expensive tickets to see Demon Hunters, and they wanted to go and see K-pop Demon Hunters.
That's fascinating, isn't it? And the kind of mistake that almost seems orchestrated to allow a lawsuit like this to happen, but I'm sure it was completely accidental. And at least the parents didn't buy tickets to see Cradle of Filth or something by mistake. That would have been much more problematic, I guess.
Well, quite. And although it's funny, I feel for the band here, because they have been, I think they've been touring for, God, it might be since 2000 or something. Like they're a long-standing touring band. And then to suddenly have this huge pop culture thing come out that sounds a lot like you, I do feel for them. And this, I think a lot of this will come down to, have they got the trademark filings sewn up? That's the key. Like you can say it's our name, and then the other entity's lawyers will be going, have you got all the trademarks? Have you got them all? Did you renew them when they elapsed? And this is often the key to this.
This sounds to me like the career fillip that they perhaps may have been hoping for, because now everybody's talking about the band Demon Hunters.
Do you think they could pivot to do some covers?
Well, surely this isn't really a problem, unless the Christian metal band Demon Hunters also plays a lot of K-pop inflected songs. Surely, like I'm fascinated to see how this one pans out.
But I think ultimately, here's my legal opinion, not being a lawyer.
Yes,
if they have all their trademarks lined up like ducks in a row, all sorted, then this, I would assume, would end in a settlement, and they'll walk away with some money.
I
from
would
the K-pop
assume.
Demon Hunters front, because that, to be honest, with a massive arenas tour, you just want to clear any obstacle out of the way quickly rather than spend a long time going to trial and trying to fight it.
I am not a cynic, Stu, as you know, but I assume this is going to end in a settlement that's going to make them happy as well, and everyone will be happy.
Or they should support on the K-pop Demon Hunters tour.
That's it.
And they'd earn some money from that, and they'd find a new fan base of absolutely horrified toddlers.
Yeah, absolutely. One's for the mums and dads there to watch while the kids are running around hyped up on sugar.
Yeah.
Right, well, on that note, that's it for us this week. Thanks very much for listening as ever. As I say every week, if you're enjoying the show, a like, share, or follow would be really beneficial and help us very much, and we'd be eternally grateful. And we'd also be eternally grateful if you considered supporting us on Patreon by signing up to be a super fan, which, as I said earlier, gets you access to our weekly lock-in, where you stay behind for an after-hours sesh with me and Stu, propped up at the virtual bar in the virtual pub as we talk about some more stuff connected to what happened in the show. That's patreon.com/thepriceofmusic. Alternatively, if you'd like to get in touch with us about anything, ping us an email, ask us a question, argue with us about any of Stu's legal opinions, you can get in touch and we will either do the research or we'll talk about it in the next show. Drop us a line with your questions to thepriceofmusicpodcast@gmail.com. That's thepriceofmusicpodcast@gmail.com. We read everything, and our very friendly researchers will reply to every email. That's it then for us this week. See you next week. I've been Joe Sparrow, he's been Stuart Dredge, and this has been The Price of Music.